In a world where two nerds come together to talk about all things nerdy, Just Us Nerds podcast was born. We talk about comics, movies, and all things in between. Get ready to have your mind blown by the most amazing podcast ever recorded anywhere, ever. The Just Us Nerds podcast. Aw, yeah.
So, I am Jay, and this is my buddy Chris, and we are the Just Us Nerds podcast. We're going to talk about a couple different things. This is a podcast for people that are comic nerds like us. We are two huge comic nerds. Well, not huge. I'm about 5'6". Chris is about 5'10", 6'1" on a good day.
Yeah, exactly.
But medium size to small size comic nerds. But anyway. This is just our talking about our love of comic books and movies and science fictions. I just invented something new there. Science fictions and toys and all kinds of other cool shit. So we got a couple things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what's going on in the world of comic books. We're going to be talking about things that we've read this week, current trends that are going on in comic books. We're going to be doing a little bit of some movie talk. We're going to be casting our dream cast for a comic book movie. We're going to be doing movie reviews. Then after that, we're going to have the toy box section. We're going to talk about upcoming toy news and doing toy reviews. And then we're going to have our final section, which is required reading, where we'll both read a book, read a graphic novel, and we're going to just give our perspective on it. So let's start off first with what's going on in the world of comics. So this first section is called Book Report. So this is what we just talk about, what we've been reading this week. Mm-hmm. So Chris, I've been reading it's Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. It's the new Spider-Man. It's the Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Okay, not compared to any 35 other than Spider-Man that they've been doing. So
no. This is the Ultimate Spider-Man. This is Miles Morales from the Ultimates universe. I read this, and the art's good. The art's beautiful. The story I didn't think it was anything really to write home about.
What's funny is I was just going to sit there, and normally when people first start with, the art's really good, and you're like, here it comes. Normally it turns into, the story was crap, but it was pretty.
No, it wasn't bad. I mean, the story, it was okay. It wasn't anything that blew my socks off. Mm-hmm. So, if you're not familiar with it, what's been going on with Marvel, so there, you had the mainstream Marvel universe,
right,
and then you had the Ultimates, which is kind of this modern reimagining of Avengers and Spider-Man and all of that.
Right.
And so recently that whole universe, the whole Ultimates universe, ended, right? And so they don't have it anymore.
They don't have it anymore.
It's gone.
They just said,
nah, fuck it, we don't like it, that's it.
That's it.
So, but I guess they kind of cherry-picked the things that they like from it. Mm-hmm. And so this Miles Morales Spider-Man was one of the things that they like. So, he's this, young, Afro-Hispanic kid who gets his spider powers kind of in the same way that Peter Parker does. And in his world, in the Ultimates world, their Peter Parker had died, and so he takes over.
Now, was that Spider-Man. Peter Parker Spider-Man, or...
Yeah, that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. He was, so when Ultimate, you never read any of that?
I read some of it, but let's give it to the people who haven't read it so you can give them some kind of an idea.
Okay, well, it basically, Ultimate Spider-Man basically retraced, kind of modernized, updated the Spider-Man origin. So, and really a lot of what we got in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie and even the Amazing Spider-Man movie borrowed very heavby from that. So,
okay.
So if you're a traditionalist Spider-Man fan, what you know is that Spider-Man gets his powers from, he gets bit by a radioactive spider, while he's at a science exhibit. They changed the origin a little bit, so it's like a genetically engineered spider. But anyway, for many years you got Peter Parker in both the mainstream Marvel universe and also in the Ultimates Marvel universe. there's this big event. We have the death of Spider-Man, so Peter Parker dies.
Right.
But of course, as we know in comic books, nobody ever truly
Nobody's
stays dead
ever
because he came back. But while he was gone, this other kid, Miles Morales, also kind of nerdy, science-oriented, kind of geeky kid, also gets spider powers in the same way. He gets bitten by a genetically engineered spider, one of the same kind that that bit Peter Parker.
Right.
And so he becomes Spider-Man. But it's interesting because his powers manifest in some similar ways, but also in some different ways. Like in the way that Peter Parker is able to stick to walls, he can do that. There's no organic webbing, so it's not like he can just generate it out of his wrists or anything like that.
So
He actually needs to borrow Peter Parker's web shooters.
Okay.
He after Peter Parker dies, he takes them.
You mean he burglarizes somebody's house?
He burgles, yes. He burgles. I don't believe there was actually any burgling involved.
It wasn't like Aunt May gave them to him.
I don't think. Maybe I don't know. See, that's I didn't read the issue.
Okay.
But what they're doing. So flash forward now. All of this has happened. Now Miles Morales has been the Spider-Man of the Ultimate Universe. Now he's in the mainstream Marvel universe, and so we have two Spider-Men.
Okay.
Dun dun dun.
Which one do I shoot? Which one do I shoot?
Right?
Yeah.
So we have and okay, part of why I'm kind of lukewarm on this book is because I'm not sure quite how I feel what they're doing with the mainstream Spider-Man.
Right.
Because now they've basically turned Peter Parker into Tony Stark.
I saw that. There's Parker Industries now.
There's Parker Industries. Yeah. He's traveling around the world. He's kind of solving mysteries, I suppose, a la Scooby-Doo. The Spider-Mobile is back.
Oh.
In case you missed that, the Spider-Mobile is back.
Oh Lord! Which means they're making an action figure line.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. We'll this kind of bleeds into the comic book trends portion of our discussion.
I agree.
But they're making comic books now. I mean, they are in a way they're marketing tools, right?
Well, absolutely. But you got to look at it though. Look at the '80s cartoons. They were, 30 minutes of a toy commercial.
Oh, unabashedly.
So for them to come back, for me, I'm like, oh, great. This is what I'm used to. So.
You remember, with the Transformers, how, in the Transformers, the movie, right? Not the shitty Michael Bay one. No, the awesome cartoon one
yes.
with Leonard Nimoy and everyone, right?
Yes.
What makes that movie so awesome to me is, in the very beginning moments of that movie, they actually kill off characters.
Right.
Where normally in the cartoon, nobody ever dies. It's just like G.I. Joe. It's a war, everybody's fighting, yet somehow no one ever gets killed, no one ever dies.
Well, no. It's like them in the A-Team. You think about it this way. They fired 3 million blasts. Not a single person
Truck
gets
barrel rolls, flips, there's explosions and shit, but they walk away. They're fine.
To get into G.I. Joe, apparently what I was thinking is, you didn't have to go to the range day, They were just like, okay, your code name is such and such. Here's your gun. Go.
There you go.
They're like, what do I do? And just pointed at that guy. Okay. And they just blasted away, making holes into stuff, and that's pretty much it.
Yes, exactly. And it's just like in these cartoons, nobody ever dies. But what made it so cool in the Transformers movie is that people actually died.
Right.
But the reason for that was because they needed to make room
for the new toys.
Yeah. So that's kind of a thing now. So in Spider-Man, they've got the Spider-Mobile, and so they, maybe they want to sell a toy, and I hate to say it, I'm probably going to buy that toy
you don't hate to say it. You're going to buy the toy.
I don't really hate. Yeah, I don't really hate to say that. That's more for my wife's benefit. I'll at least tell her that I said I hate to say it.
Right. So we have that on recording.
So anyway, now what's happening now is we have Spider-Man we have two Spider-Men. We have one who's like Spider-Man International. It's actually reminds me a lot of what they did with Batman a few years ago. Yeah, Batman Incorporated, where you had Bruce Wayne and you had Dick Grayson, both as Batman. Dick Grayson was kind of like the local sheriff of Gotham.
Right.
And then Bruce Wayne was like globetrotting, kung fu, cane, wander the earth,
right,
solving mysteries.
But to me, though, honestly, that makes more sense. I look at it that way. Think about it, okay? He can't be everywhere at once. So that's kind of why they did it. The only thing for me is, do I get actually big, bulky Batman who's actually Bruce Wayne, or do I get the slim, thinner, and you kind of look and you're like, you look at the Dick Grayson Batman, don't you think he looks at him, the bad guy looks and goes, he lost weight?
You heard it here first. Chris likes his Batman big and beefy. I'm like I said, I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about this. I didn't mind it when they did the Batman Incorporated.
Yeah, I thought it fit well. It's just, the problem is you got to write it right. Because if you don't, then you get unanswered questions. And it's kind of what it sounds like to me. Is you're like, I've got Spider-Man Incorporated, and then I've got this pint-sized Spider-Man.
And so the pint-sized Spider-Man, so getting back to it, the Miles Morales Spider-Man is kind of like, he's now your new friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He is in New York. He's fighting, I think they're setting, I only read issues 1 and 2, so they're kind of setting it up to look like he is going to kind of inherit the current, or Peter Parker Spider-Man's rogues gallery.
Okay, so pretty much they just made the new Spider-Man. Is he going to date a Mary Jane, change her name, or they...
And then they're going to have them get married, and then they're going to have some bullshit thing with Mephisto where the whole thing just gets forgotten.
Well, or he'll have his old girlfriend who was a little bit, different looking, like she had a different color hair, and then she gets killed by the Green Goblin again. I mean, are we going to do the same thing?
Maybe. No, I don't think so. I mean... And this kind of, again, bleeds into what, again, with the bleeds, I'm very violent
today. Is bleeding today.
I don't know, today is a bleeding day. And that is, the other topic that a trend that I'm noticing is just the, replacing traditionally Caucasian characters with characters of a different ethnicity or of another gender. So now with Spider-Man we have
a female Thor.
We got a female Thor. We got an African American Spider-Man. We got an African American Captain America. And
see, the thing is, and I'll tell you this, and by no means are you got to look at it for what it is, comic book wise, and some of it works, and some of it doesn't. And it just depends on how it's written. Like, I've read the Lady Thors, and I'll be honest with you, I like it.
I like it too.
I like the idea. I thought it was a really cool idea. Oh, by the way, we'll say it in between, but spoiler alert: Thor is Jane Foster, and
oh yeah, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned at the very beginning. This podcast is pretty much all spoilers, so you just buyer beware, or whatever, listener beware,
pretty much. But I like the Lady Thor, but like some of them just didn't fit, and I hate jumping, but I'll go to DC. Like when they did Baz for the Green Lantern. I've read a little bit. I looked at him like...
he's Middle Eastern?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay, but I look at him like, meh. I mean, it wasn't really done well. Whereas the Thor, it was well plotted out, well thought out, well done. And so that way you look, and it got kind of hokey towards the end because I knew who Thor was. You could kind of tell who it was. I mean,
you knew from the beginning?
It kind of made most sense to me. I mean, she's dying of cancer. She's the most sickly person. It's like, do you remember the old sci-fi show, the Mantis?
Mantis.
Yeah. See, we'll be bringing up stupid references like that. Well, Mantis.
Guy in the well, no, you got to remind people. You got a guy in the wheelchair.
He's
right?
a doctor, and what happens is he's actually in a wheelchair. He builds an exoskeleton suit to fight crime. Nobody suspects the guy in the wheelchair, so of course, perfect cover. Thor, it's the same way. Yeah. She's dying of cancer. She's weak. She's frail. She has no hair. She's,
no one would suspect her.
But it's perfect to have her be Thor.
Beneath suspicion.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't. I mean, I guess I wanted to have this as our first topic because I'm really kind of split on it. I mean, here I'm going to present both sides of it as I see it. I think a lot of people would consider it kind of a form of pandering. Like saying that pandering by changing the ethnicity, but I think that's the argument against. I think the argument for so the people that would argue against that, they would say, well, no, it's pandering. You need to just create a new superhero and just give and if you really want to have superheroes that are superheroes of color and a more more representative of the population, well then just why take an existing hero and change it, change their identity, just create a new hero. And I mean, I hear that, and I think for a time I was one of those people saying that, but now I'm going to present the other side to you, which is, Do you know how long it takes for a character to truly become
absolutely
sort of in the public consciousness?
Absolutely.
And how many false starts have there been, right?
Good God.
I mean, I'm remembering back like in the 90s, DC came out with, it was a new character called Damage, and I think he's still around, but I just remember, like, when
and that's the thing, people are looking, they have no idea.
Issue what my phone's ringing and so this is we got to get this guy on the podcast. This is my uncle.
Okay.
David. He's got no. I don't think we'll be able to put him on the lineup, but eventually we need to put him on. He's got Captain Kirk. That's his context.
Fitting.
Yeah, very very fitting. But so I mean, I pick up the first issue of Damage, and I'm thinking as a kid, I'm like, oh wow, this is going to be investment because this is issue 1.
Right.
This guy's going to be huge. He may still exist. I don't know.
It's like a Brian Bosworth rookie card, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You thought the Boz was going to be the greatest thing in the world, and then he just falls flat on his face.
No, yeah.
So
I would try to.
That was a football player, kids.
Yeah, I was going to say I would try to make a sports reference, but I don't think it would go so well for me. So I'm going to leave those up to you, Chris. That's going to be your department.
Now, see, the thing is like, you know, when they did, you know, superheroes of, you know, color and stuff like that, when they originally did it, I felt like they kind of just phoned it in, like, and here's his friend, and look, he's black, you know.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is you have characters,
and that's what I mean. But you don't want to pander. That's
No.
what I'm saying. You don't want to feel like it's pandering.
No. But the thing is like now they've kind of reimagined, like Sam Wilson. In the 70s, he was just kind of some goofy guy flying around in a bird suit. And now, he's one of the coolest Avengers. He's in the movies. He's not standing behind Cap. He's right next to him. And they're good friends. And I love that character development. So, like, when the comic book, and it came to who's going to be the next Captain America, and they picked him, I was excited because I was like, nope, it fits. I mean, it makes all the sense. I mean, he was a soldier. He knows the difference between right and wrong. I love that idea.
And I don't think I have a problem with Sam Wilson being Captain America. For those of you not as learned, Sam Wilson, this is the Falcon's alter ego, secret identity. I think more the problem I have with that is just I find the design just very goofy.
Well, they kind of just threw the two together.
They just combined Captain America and the Falcon.
So it's Captain Falcon America.
Captain Falcon America, yeah, exactly. And I don't know. The design I find just silly.
Now I have a question. Now normally with the Falcon, his trusty pet is.
No, who's this? Oh, a falcon. Yeah,
Redwing.
That should not have taken me that long.
It is Redwing.
It's a dove.
Right. So they've got Redwing. So now are they changing his name too? Is his name Freebird? I mean,
that would be good. I would like that.
Marvel, take note. So I mean, did they put the Star Spangled on him?
I haven't seen him. Well, I haven't been reading too many Captain America comic books now, but I don't see him with the bird anymore. What happened? Where did he go?
Well, what's kind of neat is I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I've seen some clips, and actually from the toy section too, they are going to have Redwing in the next Captain America movie.
This is his pet. This is pet dove.
Believe it or not, no
Falcon.
It's a drone. So now they've updated it and they've made it a drone.
I like that.
And so he'll shoot it out and it flies around, does whatever it needs to.
I like that.
He controls it.
I like that.
I like that idea. See, Marvel, you did it again.
I like that.
And
I like that a lot.
So for me, like I said, but you look at like Static Shock. Static Shock was a cool character. He even got a cartoon series.
Yeah, he and he's still around.
He was in Young Justice. They put him in there too, which is cool. But like once again,
still not as big as Batman, still not as big as Superman, still not as big as Robin. Which brings me to the point of this is where I'm going to argue the other side. There are certain characters that are just part of the public consciousness, and I think if as a kid growing up, who didn't like playing Superman or Batman or Barbie or sorry, I was revealing a little too much.
James just showed his pink side a little bit.
Revealing a little too much there. But who didn't enjoy playing those characters, and we all, why do we love these things? I mean, I think a lot of us love these superheroes because it's this fantasy of being this person who always does right.
Right.
These are our role models. I mean, these comic book characters, were some people, talk about religious figures as being, Jesus Christ, Mahatma Gandhi. I know maybe I'm blowing this out of proportion.
Did you just see Jesus Christ and Mahatma Gandhi together?
But I'm like, Superman and Batman and Spider-Man, these were my role models.
No, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I mean, this is probably going to be a whole topic for another show, but I mean, look at the whole, the Superman complex. People have always said that for years, that he's basically a god among men. But see, for me, like most of us, I was not the strongest guy when I was a kid. I was not the tallest kid. I was not,
I'm still not.
I know. But for me, it's like, those guys were idols to me because they were depictions of what I could be, not what I was.
They're power fantasies.
Right.
They're and it's empowering.
Like, for me, and I'm going to say it right, and people get really mad, and I don't really care, and that's another thing, too, is my opinions, believe me, they're not the greatest, and people are like,
I can vouch for that.
I've made people angry with some of them, but I really don't care. So, but one of them, for me, growing up as a kid, I am a huge Captain Marvel fan. DC, yeah, you call him Shazam now, but I absolutely despise that because that's the name of the wizard. That's not the name of the guy.
That's true.
So why would he be screaming his own name? It's kind of weird.
A little narcissistic.
Little bit.
It's kind of like the most interesting man in the world. Like, I don't know if they've done that one. He is the most interesting man in the world. In bed, he screams his own name.
Well, that's the thing. So for me, I love the idea of Captain Marvel. Here's this kid. He's in a rundown home. He gets beat up all the time. Anywhere he goes, he gets bullied and all this. And then all of a sudden, the wizard looks at him and says, "You've got a good heart." And that's all it took, was that he knew the difference between right and wrong. He knew the difference. So he imbues him the powers of the gods. And he becomes this big, giant monstrous of a man. But he's able to know the difference between right and wrong, even though he's, technically an 8-year-old and a
great power. And great power comes great responsibility. I mean, it always comes back to that.
Right, exactly. So for me, those were always my, as a kid, I was like, man, those are the people I'd want to grow up to be. Those are the people what I wanted to do, so
it's in that vein that I'm saying it's really kind of not fair.
No, absolutely
that
not.
Those characters be restricted to either one gender and one ethnicity. Those characters belong to all of us. Superman belongs to all of us.
Oh, I agree.
Spider-Man belongs to all of us.
See, one of the things that they did that I did like was all the Green Lanterns. They did all the lanterns, and one of the most famous lanterns of all, John Stewart. I love John Stewart.
Sure.
I think John Stewart is one of the coolest characters. Here's a guy, he was in the military, he knows how it is. He's not, he was a Marine compared to Hal Jordan, who was in the Air Force. Hal's kind of got that.
Semper Fi.
Yeah. Hal's kind of got that, flighty attitude. He's flirty.
He's cocky.
Cocky, arrogant, whatever. And then there's Hal. And then there's John. John is very straightforward. John is, look, we need to get this done. This is how we're going to do it. And
to put it in terms of Iron Man, Hal is the fun V, and John is the humdrum V.
Yes.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But the thing is like, some of the characters were, like I said, absolute hits. Like I said, John Stewart, absolutely loved. In the early 90s, with the death of Superman, they brought Steel. Not the Shaquille O'Neal version. Shaq, you still owe us on that one. but the thing is, it's like, I thought that was a cool concept because that's a cool fable.
And he's kind of the Iron Man. He really is sort of the Iron Man of the DC universe, because if you think about it, he's weapons designer, designs a suit of armor to right wrongs. So I guess kind of where I'm, what I'm saying about this, I mean, as far as the trend, I'm going to agree with you that I think. One, I think it can be incredibly helpful to have some of these iconic figures take on identities that represent more of kind of the face of our population.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, I think you can do that in a way also that's in service of the story, that doesn't feel forced, doesn't feel ham-fisted.
Right.
And I guess I feel that way a little bit just with Marvel, just because it seems like we had all of that just all at once.
Yeah.
just okay. So now we've got an African American Captain America, we've got a woman Thor, we've got African American Spider-Man. Although to be fair, he actually had come along a little earlier.
Right.
So I guess that was sort of my feeling, in that the way that because it was done all at once, it did not feel organic.
No, I agree with you. And what's kind of funny, like I was just thinking about it while you were talking about it. They did the ripoff DC did of Falcon. They did Batwing. And
is that what that's supposed to be?
That's what that's supposed to be. I've actually read the first issue. Basically, if you guys haven't seen it, it's basically he's got a suit and he can fly around and has, these bat wings. And so now he tries to join the Bat family, and all this kind of stuff.
And did they tell him to fuck off?
Kind of at first, yeah. They kind of tell him to fuck off.
They're like, who are you? What the fuck are you?
Yeah.
You got bat wings. Oh, that's nice. I got about 20 of those, and I've mastered every martial art.
Right.
And piss off.
So and that was the thing. Like they kind of just threw him in there. What was kind of neat was they had recently done a straight to DVD cartoon, and it was Bad Blood. And it's basically talking about the Bat family and everything like that. And Batwing shows up, and they kind of just look at him and they go, "Who's the tool in the tights?" And it's kind of how it is, because and I felt kind of bad, because I'm like, come on, you guys could have done a cooler character. You could have done that. It's Black Lightning all over again, and I think Saturday Night Live did that the best. It's the death of Superman. They're at the funeral. Sinbad is dressed up as Black Lightning, and he walks in, and they're holding him, and he goes, "Come on, man, I'm Black Lightning. Let me in." And they're like, who the hell is this guy? And they're trying to throw him out.
God.
And Black Lightning is a member of the Justice League. And they're throwing him out because nobody knows who he is.
So wrong. I think it's great. I think diversity is wonderful. And I think if you can do a combination of things. One, you take some of these characters that are either, people of, different ethnicities, people of color, and you develop them. You add layers to them, but then you also you do this with some of the more well-known characters. So I think it would be cool, like at some point to see an African American Batman. I mean, we have actually. Stan Lee a while back, like in the 90s.
Oh, he did a crossover.
He did, for those of you that don't know, I think it was like back in the 90s. Yeah. DC basically said to Stan Lee, "Hey, recreate our universe, and so he did kind of his own take on the Justice League, and the story with Batman. I didn't read it, but I'm familiar with the plot from what I've read about it. And it's sort of, it sounds.
So you read it, but you didn't read it.
I read it, but I didn't read it.
Yeah.
But it has this really cool kind of Count of Monte Cristo sort of flavor to it. Like, Batman was this man who was wrongfully imprisoned, and so he becomes Batman basically to avenge himself, to get back at the people that wrongfully imprisoned him. So it was kind of an interesting idea. So I think that would be cool at some point to see that. They have, a little bit later, I was going to talk about in the toy section.
We will talk about it.
We will talk about it, but I have Earth 23 Superman, who's African American Superman. So
all right, so let's move on.
Yeah. So definitely. So where do you want to stop?
We'll stop in a couple minutes. We're not done.
Okay.
Yet.
Why don't we go into the review of Batman v Superman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can start the battle there.
Okay, so we're going to move on to movie talk now, and so we're going to talk about probably something that none of you have ever heard of at all, which is someone giving an opinion about the Batman v Superman.
Right. Movie. Absolutely, and you can call us a couple of fanboys and stuff like that, but. You got to understand.
Just don't send death threats to my house if I share my opinion about that movie, please.
I kind of agree. Here's the thing: is I can't stand the negative hatred when people are like, "Oh my God, it's the worst thing that's ever." We're gonna give you the good sides and the bad sides to any movie, depending on what it is, what we did like, what we didn't like, and that's just us. That's what we look at, but. I'm not saying I'm any better or I know more than you, but believe me.
I am saying that. Chris won't say that, but I'll say that.
No, I won't.
He'll be thinking it, though.
I might. But, all right, so with our movie review. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Where you want to start with it? Yeah,
Okay,
you take
let me start.
All right, take it, buddy.
So
Do we want to do like the good and the bad here? Or do we want to? What do you?
let's start on the bad note, and then
Okay.
kind of like a crap sandwich. So let's do something good, and then we'll talk about the bad parts, and then we'll talk about the good parts. Kind of leave it on a good note.
Kind of like Stewie and Family Guy with like, I'm going to start by giving you a criticism, but then I'm going to tell you something good, and then I'm going to end with a criticism.
Exactly.
I call it a compliment sandwich.
Yeah, it's a shit sandwich. Is how it's
Okay, all right.
So here's the thing: Batman vs Superman, one of the most hyped up movies for the past 3 years,
Pretty
at
much.
least. I mean, anytime I saw an image and I started freaking out like a little girl and really wanted to see this movie, and it started looking really good and really good and really good. And I'm like, this is a hit. You got, Civil War, you're in trouble. Warner Brothers is going to destroy you guys. Blah, 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 blah. Because now here's the thing. I thought Man of Steel was okay. It was not terrible. I looked at it as kind of realism. Two superhuman beings are going to fight throughout a city. There's going to be destruction. Yeah, he destroyed half the freaking world. We know. We're sorry.
I think, Chris, a lot of people that didn't really care for Man of Steel, my opinion on it is just that for those of us, I think, that grew up with the Dick Donner Superman, that is just such a high benchmark.
Oh yeah,
to me.
I mean anything with that.
I think that would. I don't know if that's where you were coming from on it or not, or do you think is it your issue? Not that we're going to do a Man of Steel Man of Steel review right now, but
no. For me, I like I said, I like the inclination of it. I like the idea of here's this guy. He shows up on the Earth. He's human. However, he's not, and he's still he went to high school. He did all that stuff. But yet he's got to try to find his way to fit in, and his way of fitting in is not showing off. He doesn't want to be that guy who's like, hey, look at me, I could bench press a truck. And there's people who pick on him and do that kind of stuff, and it's kind of the reason why he leaves. But it's he feels that his job is more than just running a farm.
Yeah, and I think that's, and I'm going to come back to the Richard Donner Superman because I'll just go ahead and get my bias out in the open. I mean that is for me. I'm in my 30s, so that is my Superman.
No, I agree.
And I think that is, and it always will be my Superman. So I'm going to come back to the what his father tells him in that movie, which is son, I know that you are here for a reason, and that reason is not to kick footballs.
Right.
And so. I think that idea is very kind of burned into my memory as this is who the character is. So I think anytime you try to reimagine that character, if you go off my book, I'm going to have a reaction to it.
Right.
So anyway, having said all that,
so
Batman versus Superman.
Now we get the Batman versus Superman, and we look at the cast, and for me, Henry, how do you say it? Cavill.
Cavill. My wife says Cavill.
I think it's Cavill.
Okay.
But anyway, I thought honestly with this movie when I saw it, I looked at him and I was actually kind of happy. I like the idea. Like I said, he's going around the world trying to right wrongs. He's trying to do that kind of stuff. Wherever there's an explosion, wherever like the shuttle explodes, he's there. And he saves these people.
Seems a little suspicious to me.
It's not a murder situation.
Anytime shit's going down, he's there.
Yeah.
No wonder Batman wants to kick his ass.
Well, agreed. But the thing is by the way, spoiler alert. We are going to
Code Red.
Rip this movie apart.
Code Red.
So, I thought that they explained him well. I kind of like the idea of him being. Not a holier than thou kind of situation, but people realize he's important. He's not, even I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just meant even in the, in the Zack Snyder Man of Steel. I mean, all of that Christ imagery. Yeah. I mean, it's there. I mean, he is. I mean, right down to the moment where he, if you could see me, I'm spreading my arms right now. That moment where he, he's floating out of the spaceship, and Jor-El is telling him. Yeah. You can save them. You can save all of them. So I don't think
I don't think you could say, oh well, you're too stuck on the Christopher Reeve Superman. I mean, it's there even in the Zack Snyder.
No, I agree, and I like that. So, like I said, Superman was okay. I felt for him, this was definitely not a Superman sequel. This was not, this is kind of like that in between, in between credits, it was that kind of thing, because it was
maybe kind of like. We'll go over to use Marvel as an analogy, this is like Avengers was not a Captain America sequel.
No, absolutely.
But it did further some of his story and some of his journey.
So I like that, Now the biggest thing that everyone was talking about with this movie, Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is Batman. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I had heard so many people, I can't stand Ben Affleck, I hate Ben Affleck, blah, 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 blah. How can this guy be Batman? Da, 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 da.
Daredevil, don't forget that.
He was in Daredevil, ruined Daredevil. Okay, we get it. But the thing is, honestly, I think he was probably...
He was my favorite part of the movie.
I think he was the standout of the movie.
Yeah.
Most people, and which I'll get into more of the characters.
Let me clarify that with, I think I like him as Batman. I do not like what they gave him to do as Batman.
Agreed. Like we were talking earlier, now of course this movie is set about with the direction of Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Returns. And if you're not familiar with that, Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns is this... Can I say it the way I want to say it?
Say it however you want to say it, man.
It's this fat old Batman, basically, and he's pissed off at the world, and he just,
But Chris, I thought you liked your Batman big and bulky. That doesn't make sense to me.
See, for me, I could never get around that Batman. Even reading it as a kid, I remember looking at it and I'm like, what is this slop? I remember looking at it and saying, and Frank Miller, I'll fight you in the street. I ain't scared of you.
Wait a second, Chris. I have to take a moment. It's just suddenly I have this sensation as though thousands of nerds and geeks everywhere cried out in terror as you said that. Are you right now calling The Dark Knight Returns one of the seminal books of Batman? Are you saying you didn't like it?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Now listen. There are parts to it that I did like, but there are parts to it that I can't stand.
Okay.
I can't stand it. I look at Batman driving around in a tank. I'm sorry.
You don't like it?
Don't like it.
Not
don't like it at all. Not a fan.
Not tank. No tank man.
Not a fan. This old drunken Batman, and he kind of looks like. How do I feel? You know what he reminds me of? Take I hate using him as the kind of go apart, but imagine, if you will, you take Adam West, okay, and there he is as Batman, right? And you take Adam West now, he's added weight, he's done all that. Let's get him drunk for like a week, throw him back in the bat suit and go at it. And he's like, I was Batman once.
You've got my money.
Nobody
take my money.
But nobody really, you look and you're like, oh my god, dude, seriously? No wonder he has the young Robin, because that was the other thing too, is they also kind of make it into a romance. It's weird. It's really weird to me.
In the later ones, but I don't think in Dark Knight Returns that they ever...
Yeah, there's still that kind of undertone. But the thing is, too, is no wonder...
Frank Miller loves to put in his stories. I've noticed the age difference between his protagonists.
Looking Sin City,
Yeah.
But the thing is you have this Batman, and here's this Robin. No wonder she's got to kind of like take him by the hand, like, okay, let's go fight Batman. Let's go fight the Batman. And he's like, how are we doing? Fighting. And
so you've aged Batman now in the story till about 80. This Batman's now 80, 90 years old.
You know what's the perfect inclination? And I hate doing this reference, but he really is the SpongeBob iteration.
What?
Yeah, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. They're just these old men and but anyway,
respectfully disagree.
So he's like this.
All
right, so he's this angry old Batman, but So anyway, they took a lot of that from that, but
visually, because the story about and I'm paraphrasing someone else on this, but the story of The Dark Knight Returns, the Superman portion, this is the story of the end of a friendship.
Correct.
these Batman and Superman, they have known each other. They've fought alongside each other for years. They have different philosophies.
Absolutely.
They have the same goals. They want to do good, but at the end of everything, Superman chooses one road. He chooses to kind of work with an oppressive government. If it allows him to continue being Superman, Batman decides to work outside of that system.
Right.
And then the conclusion of Dark Knight Returns is when those two men, come
Clash.
to their ultimate confrontation. But none of which, by the way, is in this movie.
Remember, good. We talked to good.
Are we starting with good?
But here's the thing, though.
I thought the buns were the bad, and then the meat was the good.
No.
Okay, sorry.
But here's the thing: is like Jay just explained. It's like, these guys have been friends for so long. These guys have been friends for years. They know each other. They know where they live. They know family. They know everything about them. I mean, I'm sure they've had Justice League birthday parties. That kind of stuff.
Or bar mitzvahs.
Whatever, just depending on.
Inclusive.
So, but the thing is, no, they're already men. So But anyway,
That's true.
the thing is in this movie they tried doing that. But they're just meeting for the first time. It's kind of weird for me. And this one, it's, Batman looks, he goes, he's a spooky alien. He scares me. He has the power to destroy the world. And, okay, I get it.
I agree with, I'll tell you, as long as we're talking about good. And one of the things I liked about, I agree with the notion that Batman would perceive Superman as a threat. I agree with that notion that he would be on Superman's radar. Well, we're still doing positive, so I'll just stick with that.
Okay,
I'm with you there.
Then all right. So we've got those two. Obviously, you've got Alfred as Jeremy Irons, Jeremy Irons as Alfred. I mean,
or vice versa. He was a method actor.
It was that good.
I agree. I thought I loved the chemistry between Jeremy Irons and Ben Affleck. I wanted that was actually something that I wish that I could have seen more of that, because Irons kind of carries himself with the kind of snarky
right.
You can tell that these two have been through a lot together.
And the other thing that I thought was really kind of cool with Alfred is in this one, if you guys didn't know, Alfred is not actually just Bruce Wayne's butler. He's actually his bodyguard, and he's actually the head of security for Wayne Tech. So he's actually come up with that. If you notice, it wasn't Bruce fixing his equipment. It wasn't Bruce working on the Batmobile. It was Alfred the whole time.
My wife had made the observation, what do you think about this, that in some ways Alfred in this movie is sort of a fusion of Alfred and Lucius Fox.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think they combined it. I think that's what he's doing too, that's why he's the head of security and everything like that.
Where did you get, because I missed that in the movie, where did you get that he was the head of security?
There was an article that I had read, and they kind of said that they were going more of Earth 1 Alfred. So this Alfred's kind of more of a badass.
Well, you might want to let people know Earth 1.
Earth 1 is, once again, kind of how Marvel has their own universes, DC has their own. And in Earth 1, Batman, basically it kind of starts the same way, but he's actually trained by Alfred, who was a hired bodyguard for the Waynes, and he blames himself for their death because they told him to take the night off, and
he was former special ops,
right?
Wasn't he?
He was MI6, and and it's really cool. They made Alfred kind of a badass, and he's not some old frumpy little man, and who just goes and gets Batman's tea and sews up his tights. So this one,
not that those things aren't useful.
No, those are important. I mean, you need those. I mean, you need a guy.
I hope that when I'm in my 50s or 60s, I have someone who can sew up my tights.
Right. See, that's just how it works.
I'd like that now, actually.
Yeah, same. So, but the thing is, I really liked this inclination. Or this iteration. I mean, I really liked the idea that you look at Alfred and you're like, okay, he's not just some guy who looks at Bruce and goes, well, we're going to be a crazy bat today, huh? He's actually in on the mission. He actually tells Bruce, look, you're going off kilter here. You are not following the plan for the mission. You are not doing that. What you told me what we were going to do is this. You're not doing that.
He's definitely a much more hands-on Alfred than even, I would say, the Michael Caine Alfred in The Dark Knight.
Right.
He is. I think he's probably one step. if we're looking at the movies in terms of Burton movies, and then we're going into the Nolan trilogy, Alfred has progressively
become more.
So maybe by the next iteration, Alfred's going to be actually suiting up as Robin.
Well, I mean, in the 65 Batman, that Alfred wore a mask, and he would go out on the Batmobile every once in a while. So at least, we might get something.
So there is precedent.
Yeah.
All right.
So then you've got, Wonder Woman, and
looked good.
Looked great.
I thought people had a lot of, people were doing a lot of complaining about Gal Gadot there, and I thought, really kind of petty stuff, her bust size or something
She's
like
too
that.
thin.
She's too skinny. But I mean, she looked. I mean, if anything, I'll just say overall, as far as the good about this movie looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This movie looks, I mean, it is beautiful.
Right.
It is, the movie, Zack Snyder is a master at creating these beautiful operatic scenes, and Wonder Woman is just part of that. Gal Gadot looked great as Wonder Woman.
One of the things that I thought was kind of neat was actually there's starting to build a romance between Diana and Bruce.
Yeah.
And if you look, it's actually them. And on the comic books, especially recently, she's been with Clark. So I'm kind of curious on where that's going to go. Has she not met him yet? Has that not happened? That kind of thing. But they, they have.
Well, I think with the way, and we haven't gotten to the spoiler yet. The way they ended the movie, I definitely think
right.
It's,
Absolutely.
I mean, they meet, but it's like it's
very quick.
it's very quick. It's very quick.
So I like that. Now, Amy Adams as Lois Lane. I mean, to be honest, it's not really difficult to be Lois Lane. You just got to be a nosy busybody who's kind of annoying.
No, I don't know. See, I'll disagree with you there because I think, I mean, Margot Kidder. Okay, here's what you got to believe.
Oh, here we go. You're going to bring up Kidder again.
Okay, I'm going to bring up Kidder, but before even that, so traditionally in the comic books, Superman is with Lois. So you have someone who has the powers of a god, right?
Right.
And we have to believe.
We
have to believe that this man is, that he would want to be with this woman. I mean, this woman has got to have something special about her. There's something, this guy can move mountains and planets, but this woman can move that man. I mean, so that's kind of the idea behind it. So that's why I'll respectfully disagree. It's not just about being a busybody. It's about the fact that she's a bulldog. She's fierce. She's determined. She's committed. She'll do whatever she has to do.
Right.
No, and
I'll give you that.
Principles.
But the thing is, and like it always is, and they actually did it in this movie, and I kind of giggled when they did it. She becomes bait. She's always the bait. She can never escape. She can never do any of that on her own. I mean,
and that's. I know we haven't gotten into negatives yet, but I kind of had a problem. I mean, I had a big problem with that because I really felt Amy Adams, I think, is great as Lois Lane.
Like I said, I was happy with her.
Underutilized, and I would say that would be before we get into the negatives, and that I would say that the good things that we had from the actors' portrayals were just underutilized.
Right. Now, Jimmy Olsen was in the movie. And he was in it for all of, 4 seconds?
Superman's buddy.
Yep, and Superman's buddy takes a 45 mil bullet to the head.
Oh, Chris, I was hoping he was going to get his own spin-off.
Yeah,
solo.
nope. Anyone who...
You're telling me that's not...
Jimmy Olsen is expendable, sir. Jimmy Olsen
man.
Was actually a CIA member, apparently. That's what everybody's saying, is that he was the guy when they were in the Middle East, and then they put a bullet in his head.
You're talking about a scene early in the movie where Lois is interviewing this terrorist.
Yes.
They find out that I think her cameraman that's with her.
Yeah.
They pat him down. They find a gun on him. It turns out he's not a reporter. He outs himself.
He's an agent.
As a CIA agent. And it was not until after the fact that you find out. Maybe it's in. I've heard people say it's in the credits. I didn't look.
That it's Jimmy Olsen.
That it's Jimmy Olsen. And if you're not familiar with Superman, although I don't know why you'd be listening to this if you weren't, but let's just assume for the sake of argument that you're not. I mean, this is really one of the core, a core character.
Superman's buddy.
He's Superman's buddy. Kind of gets into trouble. Superman bails him out
because he has a cool watch.
But, yeah, he's got and then that's more of a Silver Age thing. He's got the watch and he presses it, and Superman can hear it. And I mean, since then.
You ever think, you wonder, like, how the batteries are going to run out because he hits that thing, like, every other day?
It's probably like a self-winding, like if I'm Superman, I'm going to give him that watch, it's going to be self-winding, because that would be, like, really shitty to give him something that, like, oh, I need to call Superman, and it's like,
well, he can't hear it anyway, so
I gotta go to Walmart. Oh my God, yeah.
He can't hear it.
So how would he even know if he needed to put new batteries in it?
He
So
wouldn't even know.
I'm thinking if I'm Superman, I'm gonna give my buddy a watch to call me.
A couple people from Candor living in the watch.
It's gonna be like a or self-winding.
So anyway, so Jimmy Olsen's in it very quick.
Blink and you'll miss him.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know how in depth. Let's go with another major character. We'll talk about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Do we have to?
Are
we out of positives yet, or are we in the?
No, we're not there yet.
Oh,
so,
damn it! Okay, all right.
I'll let you drop the shelf.
All right.
Here's the thing. I like the idea of what they went for Lex Luthor. Now Jesse Eisenberg, I'm not a fan of his anyway. I feel that every movie he plays, he's the same person. I mean, Lex Luthor to me was almost just the same as Mark Zuckerberg and all this kind of stuff. Okay. And you just want to punch him in the mouth. Every time you see him, I really do. I just want to punch him in the mouth. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who will probably form an angry mob with me. And
Jesse, do not come around Chris.
Would be punched in the mouth.
He is not a fan.
So, but the Lex Luthor that they went for, I kind of get it. With the new generation that we have, you look at you look at Facebook, you look at YouTube, you look at Google, of all places. There's this guy who's kind of behind it. He's a genius, but he's eccentric. There's that fine line of genius and insanity. And you kind of see him teeter on both, because he kind of loses his mind, but then some parts are like, okay, that makes sense. Now, is it bad writing? Probably. But the way that he did it, like, for me, he seemed, very sheltered. He seemed like he didn't, he wasn't well liked. I think he was picked last for dodgeball, But the thing is,
he's portrayed in the movie as kind of a social misfit genius, like you're saying that. And I'll say this: to Jesse Eisenberg's credit, and I don't share Chris's animosity towards Jesse. I think he did a good job portraying that. Like I don't think it was Jesse. I think someone said to Jesse, or Jesse said, "This is what I want to bring to the character," and Zack Snyder said, "Okay, go for it." And for that, I think mission accomplished. You did it,
right? So, but like I said, for me, it was kind of weird. Like, he always wanted to touch people. He puts a Jolly Rancher in some old guy's mouth. It's kind of weird, And I guess he's showing that he has control over them, that he has the power to do whatever he wants over them, and there's nothing they can do about it.
And I didn't quite understand why that was necessary in that scene, because what you're talking about is the scene where he's talking with a senator or a congressman about getting access to Zod's body,
right?
And you kind of didn't need to do that, because the senator they were already interested.
Giving him stuff.
Like he's like, what do you want?
Yeah, just tell me what you want.
It's like, so he kind of didn't need to do that. So I get why it was put in there, but it just sort of didn't make sense to me anyway.
Right.
I'll just say this as far as what I like. Again, as far as what I liked about Lex Luthor. I thought that there's a part of the movie where Batman Superman opens kind of at the end of Man of Steel with all of this destruction, and one of the plot lines in this movie is that a man who worked at Wayne Industries was injured in the destruction.
Played by Scoots McNeary.
That is an awesome name.
We've said it a lot. His name's Scoots.
Scoots McNeary.
Now, growing up in my house, Scoots meant that the dog was sick and she was, ass racing on the carpet.
That's just, I like, that's Scoots McNeary.
Now, everybody was theorizing because he had green socks on the whole time, which, with the green screen. People were saying, is this Jimmy Olsen? Did Jimmy Olsen get hurt? Is this the Flash? Is this, and they're just naming all these kind of things. I heard all these iterations.
Not
at all.
Not so much.
He was a guy in a wheelchair.
Pretty much nameless guy in the wheelchair. So
wheelchair guy number one.
Wheelchair guy number one, yeah. So he's Scoots McNeary's playing this man who worked for Wayne Industries. He was injured during the battle at the end of Man of Steel. and he's lost his legs as a result of his injury. So he becomes bitter. He becomes just very bitter and is kind of manipulated by Lex Luthor into going and testifying in front of Congress about what a piece of shit Superman is.
Yeah.
And he even presents the character with this new electronic wheelchair. Well, it turns out that the new electronic wheelchair that he gave him was actually a bomb that he was going to use to detonate inside of Congress. Lex Luthor. I mean, not the guy in the wheelchair.
Well, here's the thing. You don't know that because, remember, he already had all these plans. He had all this kind of stuff. It was kind of like, in his apartment. It was like the crazy, theorist and all this kind of stuff. He had all like the strings and everything attached and, and he went there already and he defaced property. He actually climbs himself up on this giant Superman statue and he writes "false god" over the chest. But the way that it looked, to me, honestly, it looked like I don't think he really cared. I don't know if I think he was in on the whole blowing up of Congress. So
I mean, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought of it that way. But I'll tell you, my point is just that I thought loading the wheelchair with explosive was a very Lex Luthor thing to do. It was very consistent with the character.
Being a weasel,
And I like that.
Yeah.
Manipulating other people into doing his dirty work. Yeah. I like that.
Another thing, too, I thought was kind of neat was Lex Luthor has Mercy with him. And she's everywhere with him. She's not much of a bodyguard, but she's nice to look at.
And you know that she's in the room when it gets blown up.
I know.
So, again, another one.
Do we know if she's there or not?
Like, why... No, I'm pretty sure she's dead.
See? So he didn't really care.
But what, Zack Snyder? Why are you killing all of the characters from the Superman universe? Like, I don't understand.
He literally just. All right, so now we've given the characters, given the brief thing. Let's go ahead, James.
We've gone through the positives. Let me just say one other positive, okay? And that is because. Because I know my statements about this movie are going to be more negative, and I'll just sum it up. Overall, I was disappointed by Batman v Superman. I was expecting a lot more. However, I will say there are moments, there are things in this movie that are very good. I like the way that Snyder initially. I think the first 5 minutes of the movie are really good. I love the way that he relates it to the end of Man of Steel. I love how we get to see that battle from the perspective.
You see it from the other side of Bruce Wayne's side.
Perspective. And that whole moment of when he's driving through the rubble and he's running into the chaos while everyone's running out. I love that. That's a very Batman thing
But
to
that's
do.
the other thing, too, is that's a Batman thing to do, not a Bruce Wayne thing to do.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne would have trapped himself in a panic room and sat there and going, oh, crap.
Yeah, but I don't know. I would give him a pass.
No,
I give him a pass.
And I get that.
And like I said, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
It looks great.
Yeah.
The score, it sounds awesome. That Wonder Woman theme. Wonder Worm is not in this movie. Maybe the next one. Wonder Woman. The Wonder Woman theme. When that I mean that was like, I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Unfortunately, it's just kind of separate moments for me that just they weren't enough to save the movie.
No, and I agree. And this was actually Hans Zimmer's last superhero movie. He's actually retired from doing.
I heard about that.
Any superhero movie again. So now we're stuck with Danny Elfman.
Do you?
So
I mean, that's not too bad.
You know what I mean? We're gonna get Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the Rotten Tomato or the way the movies this has been received had anything to do with that, or do you think it's got nothing to do with that at
with
all?
the music?
With Hans Zimmer saying that he's retiring from superhero movies?
No, I don't think it was that at all. I think he's just old and doesn't want to do it anymore. I think he has enough money stockpiled from all the millions of dollars he's made with all the movies he's done. So
I would wonder about that. I mean, I would just I don't, probably not.
You think he went Sean
Probably
Connery?
not.
You really do?
What's that?
No, Sean Connery, the reason he retired was because of
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
So do you think, I mean...
I don't know, but it's just an interesting thought.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, folks, we have run out of time on this, our maiden voyage of the USS Just Us Nerds podcast.
Those damn Minox have been outside chewing on the power cables, and Chris and I've got to get outside and clean them off. But we hope you'll join us here next week, and every week, as we continue the discussion about comic books, movies, and everything in between. It's just two guys talking about comic books. We hope you'll be part of the discussion. Until then, may the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Remember that with great power comes great responsibility. May the odds be forever in your favor. Farewell. May the forces of evil become confused on the way to your house. Bye-bye and take care.